Well, it's a delight to be here. This is my second Startup Society Summit. The first was in Greece, and it's wonderful to see old friends and meet new people and make new friends. I'm going to be talking today about the emergence of eco-villages and a strategy for them to become sustainable through land endowments. I'd like to begin, if we could take maybe 5 seconds, to think of what it is that I'm supposed to signal, I guess, to turn. Thanks. Think what it is that, to envisage what you would feel to be the ultimate community for you. If we can take a moment, to come up with the words to describe it. The kind of words I think many of us would see in answer to that are words like a community of freedom, one that's inspiring, convivial, healthy, secure, including financial and physical security, and sustainable. So that's what we'll aim to cover over the next 15 or 18 minutes. The start of Open World Villages came about 3 years ago when my friends Dave Vanderveer and Fred Esch and I were talking about what new communities could look like. Dave runs the Eco Spa Retreat in Standardsville, which is a very highly rated, almost 500 five-star reviews on Airbnb. It's an example of this new way of life, or new kind of life, on about 20 acres. He's now expanding to develop a larger site as well. Fred Esch, an architect, is a guy who specialized in green solutions for building, and he was co-founder of the Quarries Eco Village and is helping launch another eco village in Charlottesville, Virginia. That's the Quarries one, which you see in the picture, is about 300 acres. And my background has not, up till then at least, been so much in eco-villages. I was inspired very early on by books like The Moon is a Harsh Mistress and The Hobbit, and had the sense of life as epic adventure. I was also very inspired as a teenager and early 20s by Ayn Rand, Robert Nozick, and then Alvin Rabushka, who has a quote here, which I'd like to read. In a meeting with him in the mid-70s, he said, "Free zones are a way to pork-barrel freedom. When favor giving by politicians is close to ruining an economy, the last kind of favor they have to give is an exemption from their predations." And that stuck with me, as did the examples which Isabel mentioned of Werner Stiefel and Michael Oliver. I began, my discovery of Michael Oliver and Werner Stiefel happened when I was 19. I was publishing, actually in 18, when I was publishing a magazine in high school that got me linked up to a new magazine called Reason. Lanny Friedlander, the owner of Reason, made me publisher at that tender age in return for a lot of in-kind help, which I'm sure is illegal now in many states. But I was unpaid and rewarded with the title of being publisher of Reason. Lanny had in his files newsletters from Werner Stiefel and background on Michael Oliver's New Country projects. And boy, did that leave an impression. The audacity of the vision to create new free countries inspired me tremendously. So after I graduated from school, from college, I thought, well, I'd gone and visited some of the New Country attempt in Vanuatu, in Espirito Santo in the New Hebrides, and I saw that millions of dollars had been spent to create a free community, free country, all to see it go to naught. So I thought instead of trying the approach that Michael Oliver had done, which was to support a breakaway movement under the table, that it might make more sense to create a prize and then have countries compete to win it. So with the help of Bucky Fuller, Arthur C. Clarke, Robert Heinlein, and others, created something called the Earthport Project. And we did it on a shoestring. We found 12 countries interested in creating the first free port that could be open to commercial launch sites. The State Department had other ideas. They felt that was not the right move. So we were unable to get beyond having a UN resolution introduced by Liberia and a commitment on its part to create a 200 square mile Hong Kong for supporting global peaceful space initiatives. And after that, I shifted gears into consulting. I got launched the first information industry-oriented free zones in the Caribbean. The first was created, and then it quickly spread. This next picture, that picture, the Montevideo Free Zone is one I'm especially proud of. It's, I think, the freest piece of land in the Western Hemisphere. No taxes in perpetuity, no customs duties in perpetuity, liberalized visas. Over 1,000 people from India are now doing software development there. And no government monopolies, and privately administered customs with an e-governance system. And that, in turn, has spread and influenced other countries as well. I also worked in Africa on a number of large-scale free zone initiatives that secured concession agreements and legal changes, some of which I drafted, and brought investors into Zimbabwe before everything cratered. 300 people were doing data processing work in the early 1990s in the Harare Free Zone. And then I shifted over to grassroots learning initiatives with micro-vouchers, worked with Shannon Ewing, on a project in Sri Lanka and another one in Kyrgyzstan to introduce voucher-based market systems with entrepreneurial schools and telecenters as local partners. So my recipe for what makes for free zone success in all these projects was pretty simple. It was to show examples where things had worked. Hong Kong, Singapore, Montevideo Free Zone. And then once public and private sector allies, got it, see that agreements were made to pilot deep reforms. And so this formula of showing successes, getting people directly to see them or do virtual tours, led in a number of cases to commitments to make deep change. And then after that step, to go market and capitalize on the labor cost advantages of these free havens offshore. And this was a great formula for many years, many decades. So why change now something that's worked? As I see it, we're at the edge of a breakthrough in terms of what technologies are going to do to productivity. The marginal costs in many, many fields are heading towards zero. The demand for labor-intensive, large-scale employee hires is dwindling. And as careers are fading, people are opting into a different value system, what's intrinsically of value to them, rather than what kind of factory work they can do for a financial reward. Here's, in the past week, I came across an item about 2/3 of the jobs in developing countries now being at risk. And this picture here, this picture here is of a robot that's going to be producing a series of them in a factory, 800,000 t-shirts per day. So this cuts right into the heart of the apparel industry, which has been a primary driver of employment in a lot of free economic zones around the world. And we're seeing not just service industry jobs coming up for disruption. Everyone is, I think, aware of the impact of the driverless cars on the millions of people who drive for a living, truckers and taxi drivers and so forth, auto repair people, people in the auto insurance industry. Well, houses too, the home building industry, which employs millions, is at the edge of disruption. This is a Russian company, if I got it right, right there, that put up this building in 24 hours, and the price is $10,000. This other picture is of a house in Los Angeles-based inventor is building. So we're seeing a sea change in the economy that's going to mean tens and tens of millions of jobs will no longer be there as we've known them. So what's moving instead is the online market for telework. And this is the gig economy. Mechanical Turk, Upwork, others, freelancer.com. When I started paying attention, working with Shannon on this, there were in the largest marketplaces under 1 or 2 million, I forget exactly. But in the past 15 years, now the largest market, freelancer.com, has got over 20 million freelancers worldwide. No barriers to entry. And they operate on a reverse auction. So that if you need a job done, website development, animation, software, whatever, you get bids from reputation-seeking freelancers that in many cases will drop the price to 30%, 20%. Sometimes for brand new talent, they'll do the job for a few dollars just to get your feedback ratings. So as you can imagine, this is creating an enormous downdraft and pressure on the traditional monetized economy because the jobs are up for grabs now globally by very hungry freelancers. Another thing that's bad news for traditional markets, can we try the next, sorry. There we go, is the emergence of technologies that allow you to live much more affordably and self-reliantly, to go off-grid. Affordable solar, Elon Musk and others are dropping the prices there to grid parity and then below. We're seeing automated microfarming where you can have a garden, basically, that you can largely control through a cell phone app, and desktop printing and 3D printers and other fabrication systems. So all of this is leading to what Peter Diamandis and Steve Kotler have coined as a phrase. It's a market-created technological socialism. And this is one of their quotes: technology, not the government or the state, will begin to take care of us. Technology will provide our healthcare for free, the best education in the world for free. They sum it up by saying the new economy is one that's moving to become demonetized, dematerialized, and democratized. So this is going to hit, it's already hitting, but it's going to hit more. A number of communities, there we go, are just reeling with the onslaught of the effects of these changes. And it's only the start. So all the institutions, corporations, governments, even the free zone industries that have made bets on the old way of doing things are in for a transformation, a disruption. Okay. So what kind of startup communities are going to do well in this new era? What John Robb has said, he's a very astute observer of economic and technology trends, is that we're within reach are what he calls bot-enabled Edens, where artificial intelligence and robotics will allow us to relocalize production and to virtualize everything else. And as we see it, the next generation startup communities will be offering free and near free amenities, bundles of services and goods for their residents, their opportunities to live what you dream of and value, a focus on wellness and harmony with your environment, and a conviviality attuned to the whole person. An experience economy is coming up now of opportunities for learning and work as play. So eco-villages and intentional communities are really poised to grow because as these technologies allow people to live much more self-sufficiently, they are going to want to pursue communities that offer them quality of life. And the land values in these communities are going to be going up in proportion to the degree that the people coming in have access to bundles of free and near free amenities and a high trust environment in terms of business climates. So we're now at the point with eco-villages, hundreds of them around the country, operating, and a new generation of tiny house communities, which I love because these are very mobile. Many tiny houses are on wheels, and they're registered as vehicles, but they present in the same way that you would like to see a house, a very livable environment. And it also means that they can go where the pastures are greener in terms of the quality of life and the regulatory environments. These, I'll skip through quickly now, but there are scores of these tiny house villages popping up. And the funding model for them is, in large part, Airbnb rentals, because many people are curious about this new way of living. So they can be rented out for $100, $150 a night. There are also opportunities for education. Airbnb has recently introduced experiences as an educational add-on for people who stay. So how do we fund these new communities? I think in addition to the Airbnb rental streams and the educational alternatives, next generation currencies, network access tokens that give you right to visit and stay for periods of time, and personal currencies are also going to be involved. This would take us into too much overtime, but there are precedents for these personal currencies to be convertible into other things. I will skip now to the end, basically by saying that when the next financial crash hits, we're going to have an extraordinary opportunity for entrepreneurial communities, eco-villages especially, to be at the forefront of land grab. Because as various real estate goes under with this change in the economy and the bankruptcies that will ensue, there will be a move, in my view, by people to set up community land trusts and endowment zones that are based on blockchain agreements that say we will share the benefits of the land value upsides. Hong Kong, Singapore, and Macau, some of the freest places in the world, are now offering shares, essentially, in their success through universal basic income pilots and what they call growth dividends. And it's possible, if we can secure enough land and then awaken its value, that we have a chance for 10 to 20-fold land value gains at least. So these are examples of asset awakening and reforms. I'll be glad to go into these later. And in short, I think we can start this process rolling through a process of leading with gifts, digital gifts, to get people around the world familiar with the changes and their opportunities through these new land grant and land endowment systems to partake in some pretty amazing upsides. So thank you very much, and we'll welcome a chance to talk further.